Hi, and welcome to Female Entrepreneurs Magazine, your go to platform for ambitious women who are ready to take the business world by storm. I'm your host, Angel France, and each week we'll dive into the latest strategies, stories, and success secrets from the most inspiring female entrepreneurs around the world. Welcome to the Real Female Entrepreneurs. When it comes to scroll stopping strategy and magnetic online presence, today's guest is the triple certified powerhouse behind the scenes of some seriously standout brands. With a background as an educator, multi published writer, and award winning social media strategist, she's the genius helping business owners stop blending in and start blowing up. Yes, not really, just online, guys. She's going to have you blowing up online, of course. Through her agency, the Social Club Media, she blends strategy, storytelling, and style to help entrepreneurs attract dream clients while scaling their empires with ease. Let's give a spotlight worthy welcome to the queen of conversation, Randa Safieh-Angeles. Welcome.
Hi, Angel. Thank you so much. It's surreal to hear an intro like that, and I can't complain. Thank you so much. That's such a glowing intro.
Well, you're amazing. I mean, hello, what else? And I'm glad you're not blowing up the people for real. You're just blowing them up online.
Oh, thank you. I will be listening to that, or taking a recording of that and listening to it every morning.
All right. What is it that flipped the switch to get you to be the social media company that you have become? Oh my God.
Well, it's never a short story. I wish I could summarize it for you. But I was a teacher for 12 years. I was a high school teacher. And as much as I love kids, that was a very odd career choice for me. It never was the right fit, especially someone who doesn't like authority or arbitrary rules. Um, but I love the kids, I thought it was enough to sort of love kids, love your subject, but it turns out you have to like rules as well. Didn't really agree with
I'm
all
not
of
a
that.
rule follower either, so I get it.
No, no, yeah. And but the catalyst was really that when my kids were 3 years old, I have twins, 8-year-old twins. When they were, oh no, 2 years old, um, they were being assessed for autism, and they were about to start nursery, and I could sort of foresee that we were going to have some bumps in the road ahead. So luckily, I had already started. I'd been a journalist before teaching. So luckily I had already, enrolled in copy editing courses, and it was, I'd always wanted to be self-employed. The whole time I was teaching for 12 years, I was wondering, how can I escape this and, work for myself? So luckily I'd sort of foreseen the bumps in the road and already, was qualifying to be a copy editor. So when things did get difficult, when they were in, they just started nursery, and I was getting calls every day after half an hour saying, we can't cope with them, can you pick them up? That made any sort of 9 to 5 traditional employment tricky. Thank God I already had the foundations laid for my business, so I was able to, within 6 weeks, leave teaching, and I already secured a client to be able to do that. So that was, the long version is that I'd always wanted to be self-employed, and I was wondering how to do it, especially because, when I was at university over 20 years ago, working from home wasn't really a thing yet. Social media wasn't really a thing. Um, you know, being self-employed, I didn't come from a family where you started a business, you did very academic jobs. Um, so yeah, my kids, I've got my kids to thank really for, helping me make the change.
So, okay, so you've built your whole entire business with your children with you, correct?
Mhm,
But they
mhm.
couldn't go to daycare.
Well, the first 2 years, I was called every day at 9:30, so it was a lot of late night working, yeah.
It's a lot of late night working,
Mhm.
and now they're 8,
Yep.
so you've moved through a lot of the years with them.
Yeah.
How did you balance, and how do you balance now, if there is such a thing?
Yeah. I do think that's the million-dollar question: balance, work-life balance, work-life harmony, whatever you wanna call it. It looks different for everyone. And luckily, I'm a workaholic. I absolutely love my work. And, I always say I don't have hobbies, but actually, when I do find myself with spare time, I get my laptop out and I'm tinkering on Canva. I'm creating content. I'm doing courses. I'm a course addict. I'm always doing some sort of course because there's always new skills, new software to learn. Especially in the online world, you have to keep learning to be able to sort of keep up. And so work-life balance, I'm not sure that I have the answer, but what I have cracked the code for is to be able to work around my kids. And that was my goal, is to be able to be present. I wanted to be the kind of parent who drop them off to school, like pick them up, who could go to all the school events, who didn't have to submit a leave of absence form, every time they were sick, or have to negotiate with a boss, if they got chicken pox or whatever. And that, I think, there are a lot of late nights working. There are, 7-day working weeks sometimes, but all of that I'm okay with because I get to do those things that I want to do, which is the school run and, go to school events. That for me is freedom.
And I love the words "I get to."
Mm.
That's
I
one of
think
my
it's a
favorite.
mindset shift, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
it's this mindset shift um, to see things in that way. I get to do that. And I actually had to train myself to think like that because my kids go to a special needs school, which is not local. It's not 5 minutes away. I drive 70 miles a day, which I know we talked about in the States, that's a small distance. For us, most people go to the school down the road. So, I spend about 3 hours in the car every day on the school run. And I've learned to appreciate that. At first, I found it really difficult because, it takes a big chunk of your workday. But I now have appreciated it, that I think I actually get to hang out with my kids in the car. Although one is on the tablet, the other is playing on my mobile phone on Spotify, but I get to spend that time with them. Um, and I get to do that. And that's something, I would really miss if I was in traditional employment and couldn't do those things with them.
Yeah, and those times are always great because I hate to say this, but they can study and do homework a little bit
Mm.
back and forth, and so that's those because 'cause we've done that before, with my husband's grandson we raised, and that was, like, those times, the drive time, allowed for, "Okay, there's a test, let's study."
Yeah, it can, you can actually make it quite nice being in the car for long periods, listening to music, having a chat,
Mhm.
it's quality time.
It is quality time that
Yeah,
people don't get these days. It
yeah.
is. Alright, going back to business, what advice do you have for women who are trying to grow their business and might be struggling a little bit?
Oh, you know, the first 3 years of my business is, I've been in business now for 6 years, and the first 3 years were very different to the last 3 years. And I think the first 3 years, I had done a lot of self-study courses, but I had not done any group coaching programs. And I think once you do group coaching programs, it's a game changer because you're then around other women who are at the same stage in their business. You realize you don't feel that sense of sort of isolation of, if you don't have friends who are self-employed or who don't really, understand being business owners. And also you start to make much quicker progress, like when you're working with a coach and you've got the accountability and you've got the motivation. It's very motivating being around other women who are, with the same goals and the same struggles and the same desires. So I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned and what I would pass on to other people is not to be afraid to invest in that. Sometimes doing things the DIY way, it's going to take you longer and you might make wrong investments. You may be spending money on software that's not the right choice for you, or um, working with, freelancers that might not be the right fit. So I think actually, although it may seem like a bit of a luxury to work with a coach, um, I think actually it's a fast track way and you don't make those mistakes along the way. You've got somebody to guide you, and that's priceless, really.
It saves so much time in your business
Mm,
for growth, but
it
to get
does.
to the growth process, it
Yeah,
really does.
someone who's done it before you and who can walk you through the steps. You get there faster and without making costly mistakes. Because I definitely have made those, or costly mistakes, or you know, when you set up, even just down to setting up your website on the wrong platform and then realizing that there's a better option, and then
And
having to
that
redo all
happens.
that work. Yeah, all the
Oh, yeah,
time.
and that happens. Either you have to redo it or you have to pay somebody to redo it.
Exactly, because mistakes can be costly financially and time-wise. So I think working with a coach, doing a group coaching program or investing in yourself, even if it's self-study, even if that works better for you, um, the investment in yourself, it's never lost, you know. Um, and generally, we do these programs because there's a big return on it, your investment. But it's also lifelong skills that you gain. Um, so you may use these skills and knowledge further down the line.
100%. It might not be what you need to read it that second, but down the line you go like, "Oh, remember that when
Mm,
that happened." So,
yeah.
I mean, 'cause we've all had different coaches, I'm sure at some point, and if you haven't had one, please find one. We have tons of them
Mm,
on here in our female entrepreneurs group. They're amazing. And social media people who are so amazing. Oh my God. You
yeah, a
guys
good coach. Sorry.
yeah, a good coach and a good social media person is the bomb,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, I was going to say a good coach is worth their weight in gold, and you know, they're almost like your therapist as well, aren't they? Your
They
unofficial
are.
therapist. Yeah.
But, you know what? I might be plugging you, but I don't know. I mean, I just need everybody to understand a good social media person as well makes a world of difference because sometimes we don't wanna promote ourselves, but
Mm.
you can create something that's so amazing that makes us look so good that we would never do for ourselves.
Yeah, some people really struggle with the self promotion, or the showing up on camera. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes, one of the services I offer is content plans because there are also business owners who actually really like to create their own content. They just don't know about strategy or, posting cadence or the right hashtags to use or SEO. And they just need somebody to sort of give them the structure, give them the plan, write the captions for them, and give them some guidance on what to say in the reels, how to film the reels. So, there's all types of business owners. Some want to just hand it over, not think about it because they don't enjoy social media. And I completely understand that. That's how I feel about my accounts. I don't want to know about my bookkeeping in my accounts, um, but there are some who really enjoy it. They're just not getting the traction that their business deserves because they they don't have the model and the formula and the strategy to do it.
Yeah. Perfect. So tell me this, everything you've learned in business so far, what is one key strategy that would you go back and tell your 18-year-old
Mm.
self? What is that advice? Like, oh my God, I love advice that we could give our 18-year-old
Oh,
self.
yeah.
Just goodness.
I try not to regret. I try not to have regret, but I wish that at 18, when I was picking what I was going to study in a university, I had known about other options and I had gone for. I think one bit of advice is do what you love, not what you think you should do. You know, and often we emulate what our parents did or what our if you come from a family of doctors, you come from a family of tradespeople, you sort of think, oh, that's the right career path because that's what my parents did or that's my family members do. So I think trying to shake that off and not have that influence your decisions too much. But then equally, 18-year-olds don't always make the best choices. So I'm not sure if I'd had that freedom, what I would have picked. What I actually did study was considered risque at the time as it is. But I think if you know what they say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel now. I genuinely, people are so shocked about how much I love my work. And that's all I can really talk about. And that's all I want to talk about. And they kind of really don't understand that um, you know, because they have a job that they like, they tolerate, they can, they're quite happy with, but to actually love it and choose to do it even when you don't have to, that is a privilege, and I'm so glad that I have that. And maybe had I not done jobs that I was unfulfilled in, maybe I wouldn't appreciate it as much. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we have to go through what we go through, but we
Mm,
learn lessons
we
along the way.
do. Yeah, that's why I think regrets are not a good thing because they have taken you to where you are now and shaped you, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I every failure I've ever had is I needed it. It
Yeah,
served
and,
me.
there's a good quote about fail, but fail fast, That the mistakes are good, but just get out of the way as quick as possible, you know? And I think we learn more from our mistakes than when things go right,
We
you
do.
know?
I
And,
think we
like
do too.
yeah, and for example, one of my best friends, who actually was my boss when we were teaching, she's also now a business owner. She said, "It's your mistakes that write the policies in your contract," you know? Yeah,
Oh,
and I thought that's genius. Yeah, she said every time she makes an error, the clauses tighten up in her contract. And I thought yeah, that's good advice actually, and it's
it's
it's a good
perfect
point.
advice. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, because if you make a mistake and you have to fix it, there's something that you didn't have
mhm.
buttoned up somewhere, you have to button it
Yeah,
up.
and we're often too lenient at the start, I think. We're often too giving, too lenient, too grateful, to have the work that we often do too much or answer those messages at 9 o'clock at night. And then you set a precedent and then you're stuck in this, a self-created prison for yourself where you're always available. So I think those lessons, those mistakes are great lessons.
Really are. All right. What is a key strategy? You've seen tons of business people. What is a key strategy that you could share that could help somebody advance in their business?
My best advice is always just do it, just do it,
Mhm.
post. Regarding social media, all the time that you're not posting, you're missing out on opportunities,
Mm,
and there is a lot to be said for quantity over quality sometimes in social media. And the reason I say that is because the algorithms, they reward you for posting often, for being on the platforms, for engaging, for being present, visible, and active on the platforms. And also you have to post to learn what works and what doesn't work, because everyone's audience is different. For example, whenever I start working with a new client, the first month is a great test. There's a lot of A/B testing, seeing what works, what language resonates with their audience, what sort of posts do they prefer, carousels, do they prefer reels, what are they saving, what are they sharing, um, you know, and you really have to kind of put it out there to see what works. It's always an experiment when you first start posting for your own business or for somebody else's. So you only learn what works through posting and trying it all out. You may find that, for example, down to the minutia of a dark font against a lighter background may work better than the other way around. It's all those little things. For example, photos will always attract more attention. Photos of a business owner will always, or faces will always attract more attention than graphics. And I was speaking to one of my clients today who is a bookshop owner. She owns a shop called Criminally Good Books in York, and she does a lot of in-person events that I promote. And we were talking today about how the bigger the pictures of the author, the more tickets that sell. So it's things like that. So I would say do it fearlessly because it has to be done. Also, nobody likes to record talking reels at first, but they are very effective. And I promise that once you've done 3, it becomes normal. Just speak like you're speaking to a friend over coffee. Your brand voice should be natural. And if it feels unnatural, it's because you haven't settled into it. Really, when you're recording your talking reels or podcasting or anything like that, I think it should feel natural. I think everything in business should feel right and sit right with you and feel natural. And the other thing I would say is, um, you've probably, everyone's probably heard this word being sort of thrown around, but vulnerability. But people
mm,
want to hear the story. They want to hear your backstory. I was speaking to one of my best friends today who wants to start a business writing eulogies because she's encountered, very, very, she's encountered bereavement in the last couple of years and, wants to help other people doing that. And I said, really, I know it's uncomfortable, but people will relate to you more if you, share that story as much as you're comfortable with. Obviously, we all have our boundaries, but people they relate to a story, you know? Everyone has a story. And that's
What
what
a
people.
business though. Oh my God, that would
Mhm.
help so many people.
Exactly. And I think somebody who's been through it is actually the best person. You know, they know that you can relate to them, that you're sensitive, you're empathetic. So I think, you know, whenever I post about, you know, my own kid's diagnosis and being a working parent and the struggles that can happen, being stuck in traffic on the motorway when I have a Zoom call, or, you know, I do a live coaching program twice during the live calls. My kid's school called me because my kids were sick. So, you know, when I post about these things, the real life things that happen, you know, not everything's picture perfect, you know. So when I post about those, people love relatable. They really do.
That is relatable because it is
Mm.
so true. Life gets in the way and we have to adjust. We have to have a
Mm.
ebb and flow. I call it the dance continually.
Yeah.
So can you share any future plans that you have that we need to keep an eye out on?
Well, I have launched this year my signature program, Social Strategy School, and I was so happy to launch it this year because it's something I've been thinking about for a long time, especially because I was a teacher before and I loved creating lesson plans and I loved creating resources and, you know, teaching information in different ways because there are visual learners, kinesthetic learners, auditory learners, you know, and I wanted to create a course that was really accessible for a variety of business owners, you know, the ones who are just starting their businesses and don't even, you know, have their account set up, to those who've been in business for several years and they're great at, you know, the service or the product that they offer, but the marketing side, you know, they haven't got, you know, they haven't really been posting frequently, they haven't got funnels set up, they haven't got a mailing list, they haven't got a lead magnet, you know, anything like that set up. So I have loved working with, um, you know, this group of women and watching them enjoy social media more when they were actually really sort of either not very excited about it, but knew that they had to do it, or liked it, but didn't really know the right way to do things. And I've just loved watching their businesses grow. You know, I've loved watching them, you know, release and launch their own courses and their own lead magnets and build their own mailing lists. And it's given me the same fulfillment that I had when I was teaching. You know.
And what's the name of the course and how could they get it?
So it's Social Strategy School, and there's a self-study version so if you visit my website, www.thesocialclubmedia.com, and visit my course page, it's Social Strategy School, and it's 6 modules covering all the big platforms. And also I have 10 amazing guest expert speakers on there covering all aspects of business, from accounting to AI to ManyChat to funnels. So everything outside of social media is actually also included on the program. And also all the templates that people need. So I've got social media templates, onboarding forms, you know, all the resources, even how-to guides to start your own course. So it's funny, when I first started the course, it was just going to be Instagram. Then I got carried away and I included sort of Facebook group marketing, and then, you know, content creation, and then I included LinkedIn, and then I included Pinterest, and then I included, you can't have all this and not have email marketing, you know, and automating your sales. And then I got carried away. I actually put a post in a Facebook group asking for guest speakers, thinking no one's going to volunteer to be a guest speaker. And then I got over 10 of the most amazing guest speakers. And I'm shocked at some of the names that I have on, you know, really well known in the UK. So yeah, I'm actually really proud of the course because of what people have got out of it. You know, obviously the aim is to grow your business and generate more income, but also just the enjoyment, the confidence, seeing people have more enjoyment in their businesses again, you know?
Yeah. You can feel your excitement when you talk about it because you just love doing it so much and sharing with
Oh,
everyone,
thank you.
you know?
Thank you. Yeah, you know, part of the reason I went into teaching was because I loved my subject and wanted to talk about it. And that's exactly how I feel about this course. I get to talk about what I love every week, you know, on the coaching calls. So yeah, it's a dream. Those are the pinch me moments where I think, my God, I get to talk about what I want to talk about.
You do. That's amazing. All right. On the fun,
Yeah.
lighter side of life, you had a superpower for just 24 hours, one day, what would it be?
Oh, this is the question I struggled with. I'm just going to refer to my notes because at first I just couldn't work out my answer. So I wrote, I would have a nap undisturbed, but I
Oh,
don't think that's a
yeah, that is a
superpower.
superpower for moms. Oh my god.
Yeah,
If you could just,
but
like, instantly go to sleep, the
yeah,
magic
yeah.
wand goes, "Take a
Just
nap." How
become
long do you want?
invisible. Or, but then I thought, actually, no, that's not really answering the question correctly. So my superpower would be, I don't want to ever know the future, but if I could know negative things that were going to happen that you could stop happening, that would be great. Sorry, that's
That
not
would
very lighthearted.
Oh, it is, that's so cute, I love it, I love it. I love time travel movies, so if you can do
Oh,
that, figure it out and go back and
yeah. Do you
go
know
for
this?
it.
I had a few sessions with a psychic, and I said to him, please don't tell me about anything in the future. I don't want to know. I'm a very anxious person, but only tell me if there's something that I can stop that bad from happening. Tell me that. Otherwise, don't tell me. you know?
And he didn't tell you, I'm sure.
No.
No.
But it
Alright,
was
what's
fun.
one it's always fun. What's one fun fact about you that not a lot of people know about?
I had to actually really think about this because I think since having kids, I can't, there's not an awful lot fun about me. But I guess that what a lot of people don't know, because I kind of kept it separate from my business, is that I used to host a true crime podcast with my sister called the Switchblade Sister Social Club, and we were actually voted Independent Podcast of the Year a few years ago. We were like number 2 in South Africa and number 2 in Belgium, and me and my sister were really close. And we just couldn't believe it. We thought, how we're just 2 middle-aged sisters, having a chat about true crime. Yeah, so that would probably be my fun fact, because I kind of kept it separate to business and didn't really post about it. We had a separate account, because
Yeah.
that's where I was completely unfiltered.
But that
And
had to be fun with your sister. Are you still
so
doing it
fun.
or no?
I did it for 3 seasons, and
Yeah.
I've now passed the torch on to one of our really close friends, my friend I mentioned earlier, and client who owns the bookshop, crime bookshop in York, because we were recording late at night, and we couldn't fit it into the working day, so we were recording late at night, and it does become, you do get podcaster fatigue. I'm sure you and I felt like I've done 3 seasons, and I've got nothing left. I felt like I had dried out. It was getting a bit stale, my performance. So, but my sister is an incredible podcaster. She speaks at the podcast show in London, and yeah, she's amazing. So it's definitely worth checking out for any true crime fans. It's the Switchblade Sister Social Club.
That had to be fun. I'm sure you're glad you're not doing it right now, but I see you probably returning for a guest appearance.
Guesting. Now I love listening to it. Now I love being a listener. Now that there's another co-host. So yeah, but it's a
That's
great true
cool.
crime podcast.
That's fun. Alright. Do you have a favorite book or books?
I do. This was a really easy question to answer because I read a book 15 years ago, and it had such a profound effect on me. Those books or those movies, that you read or watch, and it stays with you because it opens your eyes and it changes how you think.
Mhm.
So the book is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Good
Yeah,
book.
so yeah, I mean, honestly, it opened my mind. It shifted my perspective on a lot of things because I was a year into teaching then. And the reason I found the book fascinating is because it's a series of case studies about success stories, but it's not one of those books about here's how to be successful or here's why they're successful. It actually breaks down the stories behind people's success, and actually the common denominator is advantage and privilege and having a leg up or even luck. So I found it fascinating because it's very easy to sort of look at people who are successful and think, oh, that must have been so easy, or they must have worked
Mhm.
so hard, or whatever we think. But actually the backstories can be very interesting. For example, Bill Gates was one of the case studies, and we think of him as this technological genius. But actually the advantage he had was that in 1963 he was at one of the only schools that had computers. So his advantage was actually having a computer suite at school at a time when people didn't you
Right.
know So it's fascinating because it's about success, but it's about, it looks at it objectively about the social capital people have in their lives, the cultural capital, all the leg ups and the advantages and even disadvantages, why two people with the same IQs. Another case study was two people with the same IQs, and one was wildly successful and the other wasn't, and what the reasons for that was, and it's often so many other factors. So
Yeah, there's
yeah, I
so
find
many
it
reasons
fascinating.
why. It is.
Yeah.
And you're a published author as well, correct?
I am, but not in the field of social media. Yeah.
But that's okay. What do you mind telling us what you are in?
Yeah, so I used to research and write about Palestinian music and culture. So I was published, and I used to do journalism and write about that. And then also I was published in a book, which was a compilation of articles about music and resistance. And music was actually the subject I taught when I was a teacher. So yeah, that it feels like another lifetime ago.
That's cool
Yeah,
though, because there's creativity in that as well. So
yeah.
what you're doing now is so creative, and that is so creative all in itself.
Yeah, it's funny. It's because it was like another lifetime. There's actually a few videos on YouTube of interviews I did, um, on one of BBC World News and Voice of America, and it's sometimes when you're younger, you're ballsier, in a lot of ways. I feel like I've toughened up a lot with but over the years, but I was ballsier in this was in my 20s, and I'm not sure I could do live BBC World News again. I get nervous about guesting on podcasts now.
All right, what about a favorite song or songs?
Oh, I have so many. And I mean, I have so many favorite songs. Obviously, I used to be a music teacher, so I like everything from Baroque music to, Dave Brubeck's Take Five to Enya. I've got a different kind of music for whatever mood you're in, different times of day. But what I used to listen to driving to work every morning when I was trying to motivate myself, and it was 7:30 in the morning and it's still dark outside, you're driving to work. I used to listen to The Prodigy because there's no music that is more energetic than that, something with a fast tempo, really upbeat, to try to convince yourself that you've got it in you to take on the day.
You got it, girl. All right.
These days though, I love to listen to Enya in the evening to wind down.
Yep. All right, a favorite quote.
Oh, yeah, this isn't I have a lot. I have a lot of favorite quotes, but the one that stands out, I think it's most appropriate to this context, is whether you think you can or you can't, you're right, by Henry Ford. And because it ties into mindset, like when I speak to a lot of people who come and tell me they want to start a business but don't know how, and they're like, oh, but it won't work because of this, it won't work because of that. I always say, if you think it's not going to work, then it won't. If you think it will work, it will. And mindset, I know a lot of people believe in manifestation, and I did love, The Secret when it came out. And I used to actually watch that every night to go to sleep because I was going through IVF at the time. And I thought, oh, this is positive thinking is really good for you. If you think, ask, believe, receive. But the thing is, I think that's only half of the work. Yes, you have to believe that you can do it. But it's really the taking the steps to do it. Whether it's, I was speaking to a friend today, the one who, wants to start a business, writing eulogies. And I said, even if you do half an hour a day, you're moving the needle forward. It's thinking positively, thinking you can do it, and genuinely believing that you can, but also moving the needle forward, doing something actionable and every day, whether it's 15 minutes of engagement on social media, whether it's, reaching out to a few people you might, dream clients you might want to work with, whatever it is, just do those practical steps to get there.
Yeah, it's just those little bitty time slots sometimes that make it happen.
Mm.
What great advice you gave her. And everybody
We'll make it happen.
How do you stay motivated?
Well, do you know what? For me, my kids are my motivation because, as I mentioned, they're autistic. And so I obviously think and worry about the future, as all parents do, worry about their kids' future. And so for me, the whole aim of my business is to create something to leave to them, or to create a work opportunity for them. because the statistics in the UK, at least, of people who are autistic and unemployed, 70%. I'm not sure how accurate that figure is, because obviously there's a lot of people aged 30 plus who are autistic and do not have diagnoses. For example, this might be actually a fun fact about me, but at 38, I was diagnosed autistic and ADHD. And had I not had kids, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have known, because I come from the generation where if you didn't cause your teachers a problem, well, we didn't know about it. In the 80s and the 90s, we just didn't really know about it, first of all. And even when I was teaching, and I left 6 years ago, there are so many people who go under the radar and are missed, because the sad truth is, if they're not causing their teachers a problem, they're not going to be identified. So those who are quietly struggling and suffering, sadly, this is why 80% of women are not diagnosed until adulthood. And actually 38 is the average age that women are. And it's usually because they've had their kids have been diagnosed, and then, 70 to 80% chance the parents are as well, which I think we're now becoming aware of. So I actually forgot what the question was, because I went off on a tangent, but I think you asked,
No,
how do I stay motivated? I think you asked
yeah,
that. That was, yeah.
it's fine.
Sorry, that is my ADHD going off on a tangent and forgetting the
I'm like
question.
going, I understand. I mean, I'm probably ADHD, but I haven't been diagnosed. I mean, I understand. So I'm like listening, going, I get the
You,
jumps.
do you know what? Apparently, we are 300% more likely to start a business if you have ADHD. And I think it's higher than that. I actually think it's higher, because so many business owners I know have ADHD or are autistic, because it's the creativity and the 9 to 5 life not really working for you. And but yeah, I mean, I think your question was, how do I stay motivated? Is that right?
I am, but I mean, you answered it. I mean, it's the juggle, one thing, and it's the people. It's the
Yeah,
juggle and
yeah.
the people.
Yeah, it's the long game, the long-term goal for me is to be able to create generational wealth for my kids, so that regardless of what their future looks like, they have security. And the short term is just being able to take them on a nice holiday and things like that. That's the motivation. And then also, getting those messages from your clients that a post went out and they got however many sales, or that they're excited about their business, things like that. There's those are the sort of small everyday motivations, because motivations aren't always financial. They're fulfillment is a huge thing. That's a huge motivator.
Yeah, it really is.
So yeah, I think I got back to the root of the question at the end.
You were just explaining. It was fine with me. I was great. I understood it.
Thank you.
So, what is the best way for our audience to stay connected with you?
Oh, come and find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. So my Instagram handle is the social club _media. And I love to speak to people in the DMs or otherwise. So please connect with me. I can point you in the direction of all of my freebies. I've got a lot of free resources. The main one is a 15-minute masterclass, free masterclass called Social Strategy to Sales Success, which covers optimizing your Instagram account, marketing in Facebook groups, and also Pinterest strategies. So I also have a lot of other free resources if you visit my website, which is in my link in bio. So please make the most of those, because I do love to create resources that people can use and enjoy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just feel that you just have so much to give everybody, because social media is the thing that people struggle with. They really do. I mean, they probably don't think they do, but they do. If they're not
Yeah.
getting the engagement and they're frustrated, that's where they're
It can
at.
be demotivating. And I remember speaking to a business owner who owns an amazing business in LA, actually. I forgot the name of it, but it was touring the houses of old Hollywood actors, in a limousine, actually in a hearse. I think it's a hearse, not a limousine. I'll find out the business name for you. It's a really cool business. And he was saying, I just want to be a business owner. Why do I also have to do social media? Why do I also have to do that? I mean, if I had to do accounts every day, the way business owners have to do social media, it would frustrate me, So I do understand it. I understand, And even social media managers, we struggle to keep on top of our own social media, no matter how good our systems are and strategies are. But, another bit of advice, if it's okay to go back to it, is have your systems in place. I'm a big lover of project management systems. And I wouldn't know what day of the week it was if it wasn't for, my project management system. And, I used to use Asana, which I love, and Trello, but I've discovered a new one called X-Tiles for those who want something a bit more visual. And I think having, on my program, actually, before the course even starts, I have a module called pre-program module, which is all about doing a digital declutter of your computer, your email inbox, your desktop, getting everything organized so that social media does not seem as overwhelming. Because how when you open up your laptop and you see a million files on your desktop that you need to file away, and you open your inbox and you've got so many emails that you need to delete, all of that is so overwhelming. And I think we underestimate how overwhelming digital clutter is when we work online, So I would definitely
Like me,
recommend.
I have 140 something unopened in a personal one that I just sort of go, oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. They'll chase you if it's important.
That's how I feel in that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not that
Yeah.
important. I have other things to do. 'Cause if you guys are like me, I mean, you probably have like 3 or 4 or 5 different email accounts sometimes,
Oh,
from
yeah.
personal to whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'm a fan of streamlining. Streamline as much as you can to reduce that overwhelm.
yeah, I need to. I just say, whatever. I'm the whatever girl. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Oh, I'd love to be that relaxed as a person. I aspire to be that relaxed.
And I aspire to be like you. I need the systems.
Oh,
It's
highly
like,
anxious.
oh,
Highly organized, but highly anxious.
I love it. I love it. So, what else would you like to share with our audience before we leave?
Oh, just, I love to connect with people. So if anything I spoke about was interesting to anyone, if they want to learn more about social media, as I said, I've got lots of free resources, and I constantly churn out more lead magnets. Because, as I said, I love to create resources, having been a teacher, and I love to have conversations. So, even if there's anything I spoke about, about neurodivergence, anything like that, anyone wants to ask questions about, when I was a podcast host, actually, even though we spoke about true crime, most of the messages and questions I'd have were about neurodivergence and people who wanted to talk about that, and who resonated with my story or my kid's story, and things like that. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. I love to speak to people and, find out about people and help and make connections.
I love it. Brenda, thank you for being on. You were truly amazing. I love your
Oh,
authenticity and your honesty. It's amazing.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. I'm honestly blown away because, in my mind, I'm small fish, so it's a privilege. It is a privilege to, I've read your email over and over, when you invited me on, because I thought, I guess it's that imposter syndrome, but
Yeah.
I'm really privileged and honored. And thank you, Angel. I've had a great time.
Thank you, Randa. You're amazing. Bye.
Mwah, mwah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. I hope you found inspiration, actionable tips, and a sense of connection with our incredible community of driven women. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share the episode with fellow entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate their game. Remember, your success is just the beginning, and we're here to support you in every step of the way. Until next time, keep shining, keep thriving, and remember, you have the power to create the business and life of your dreams. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.